Hi, I'm Dr. Keenan Curitan, and we're here at the United States Capitol in search of lost episodes from American history. The thing about the Capitol that a lot of people don't know is that the U.S. Capitol building was used as a church building for many years. And just want to tell you a little bit about that. You go back in your history, President George Washington, of course, laid the cornerstone of this building in 1793. But it was just a couple of years later, while this building was still under construction, that we've got a report in a Boston newspaper that they were having church services on site while this thing was still under construction. Here's what it said. The City of Washington, June 19. It is with much pleasure that we discover the rising consequence of our infant city. Public worship is now regularly administered at the Capitol every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock by the Reverend Mr. Ralph.
Amen.
Isn't that cool? But it wasn't until November of 1800 that Congress was able to move into the Capitol, but it was December the 4th of 1800 that Congress voted and approved having church services in this building. In fact, the Speaker of the House was Theodore Sedgwick, and the President of the Senate was Thomas Jefferson. Of course, at that time he was the Vice President. He'd just been elected as President. Jefferson, of course, we talk a lot about him because he's famous because of separation of church and state, right? He wrote that famous letter to the Danbury Baptists. But he wasn't a classical deist, really, nor was he an Orthodox Christian, and yet he did support biblical Christianity and church-going. And one of the things that he did when he came to church at the Capitol, he became a faithful churchgoer. He began coming to church here on January the 3rd, 1802. That was 2 days after he wrote that letter to the Danbury Baptist Association, talking about that wall of separation between church and state. But I don't think he believed much in separation of church and state, because when he had church services here in the Capitol, he also employed the Marine Corps band to be the worship band, okay? And so you had the speaker's podium doubling as a pulpit and the Marine band leading worship under Jefferson, okay? So not only that, but the crowds, they outgrew the old House chamber, and Jefferson started having church services in the War Department and also in the Treasury building, and church services were also held in the old Supreme Court chamber and the Senate chamber and other parts of the Capitol. And so Thomas Jefferson was the first multi-site church planter, okay? These guys today, they don't have anything on Thomas Jefferson. So according to the eyewitnesses, Jefferson, of course, he was a regular attender in church. He even had a designated pew for himself, or a seat for himself and his secretary. He rode to church on his horse, and many times there was inclement weather. He came through the rain and the snow to be a part of the church services. And in fact, from Thomas Jefferson all the way through Abraham Lincoln, you got presidents coming to church here in the Capitol, as well as members of Congress regularly coming. And it was in this building that they heard the chaplains that were appointed by Congress to preach, and also the U.S. Speaker of the House appointed preachers to preach the unsearchable riches of Christ right here in this building. And the Library of Congress provides this detail from Chaplain Charles Boynton in 1867. Quote, nearly 2,000 assembled every Sabbath for services, making it, quote, the largest Protestant Sabbath audience then in the United States. This was the biggest church in America at one time. And that is yet another lost episode in American history.